Amnesty for who? You tell me they are repentant terrorists. Repentant from what? We are soldiers. Our duty is not to come here and grant repentance. Our duty is to hasten your appointment with God to heaven or hell, where He will grant you penance. So, for us to be bringing large number of men from the forest who hitherto were armed and taking on fellow Nigerians, then on the appearance of soldiers, they drop their weapon and you are compelled as a professional to take them PWs and you bring them back to us and say they are repentant what? And then you give their godfathers sitting in government houses to begin to talk about amnesty.
Congo has been in the spotlight of Africa for years. The reason is because Congo is rich in different mineral resources, but despite that, the citizens are living in abject poverty. Majority of our citizens are extremely poor. But that is not the news. Recently, the Minister of Justice, Mr. Mutabe, in collaboration with the president, he just approved, the execution of over 100 Congolese. Why? Before you get emotional about this, please, I want you to please patiently listen to this. Don't get emotional, but listen to the end. Now, before now, there is a group in Congo called colonial bandits. They call them colonial bandits. There's another name they also call them, which just escaped me. Now, these guys, they go to the streets, they ravage the street, they will do forceful entry to women, they will terminate lives, you understand? They are just almost more or less like the Boko Haram of Nigeria. All right. Okay. Now, this group keep growing and growing every day. So recently, the Minister of Justice, Mr. Mutabe, in collaboration with the president, they decide to form, an operation, tied to Operation No Colonial Bandit. You understand? They want to wipe them. In other words, if you are part of them, withdraw now. They are not going to tolerate it, because if you are caught, you are going to face a capital punishment. Now, before now, Congo had been operating on capital punishment, you understand, which was only meant for the military. But they later brought it to civilian as well. Only those who are involved in, serious offense like treason, soldiers who go to war and the rest, you understand. But they now brought it. Now, the Minister of Justice and the President warned that anybody found being a member of this, colonial bandit stuff, right? That they are going to face capital punishment. You understand? Now, today, they just approved, the execution of over 100 persons. But here's my concern. Looking at why do we execute them? Before I proceed, why do we execute them? Firstly, 99%, okay, of these band of these gangs, they are male, okay. Why do we execute them? Children were there, parents were there, and the rest, plenty for them, but no plea. The only what the Minister of Justice only told them, he said, please pray to your God. All right. Now let's come back to our country, Nigeria. Boko Haram has ravaged Nigeria for a long time. I remember I was somewhere around Jabi some years ago, around 2011. I was in church that day. It was just in church relaxing. Guess what? When Boko Haram blew off this day dome, this day dome is about, I can't remember, I don't know how many kilometers, but it's a little bit far from church. But when they blew up that this day dome, even our church shook. You understand? Okay, now Boko Haram has ravaged Nigeria. Boko Haram has terminated the lives of countless of Nigerian generals. Then guess what? In Nigeria, they treat them with kiss glove. In Nigeria, they not only they treat them with kiss glove, they give them presidential pardon. They bring them into our military. First, what do you have to say about this? Please, I want to add a video to this video. Hear from a Nigerian army general for you to know what is going on with our our military, our security system in Nigeria. All right. Now, Let me not say much, please. Just watch this next video I'm about to show you. Watch it to the end. Please drop your opinion. I beg of you. I will gladly read. All right, and I'll be responding. Thanks.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. I would say I agree with the opinion that General Buhari in the last 8 years or thereabout did virtually nothing, and I mean virtually nothing, in our fight against terrorism. If anything, he promoted and enhanced our hardship as far as the fight against terrorism was concerned. It's unfortunate that we are talking about our number one citizen as at then, within the period of the last 8 years, a period which I refer to that Nigeria had no political leader. We saw all the lines of actions taken by the, political strategic level of decision making. We saw all the lines of action taken even from the presidency. We saw how ministers who had business or things to do with terrorists were made to remain in their positions as ministers. One was even in charge of our entire national data. We could go on and on and on. We allowed undue sentiments right from the presidency to be visited in our alleged purported plan or action against terrorism. You could read religion, you could read tribalism, you could read ethnicity, and so on. It's unfortunate. And at the subnational level, we had governors, especially up north where I come from, under that administration, that had all sorts of romance and unholy relationship with terrorism, degenerating to a situation where some of them were even talking of amnesty. It was shocking to some of us. Amnesty for who? You tell me they are repentant terrorists. Repentant from what? We are soldiers. Our duty is not to come here and grant repentance. Our duty is to hasten your appointment with God to heaven or hell, where He will grant you penance. So, for us to be bringing large number of men from the forest who hitherto were armed and taking on fellow Nigerians, then on the appearance of soldiers, they drop their weapon and you are compelled as a professional to take them PWs and you bring them back to us and say they are repentant to what? And then you give their godfathers sitting in government houses to begin to talk about amnesty and even referring us to how amnesty was granted to some chaps way back in the what's his name? Yeah, President Yaradua in the creeks. It's unfortunate. So now we have a new administration in place. In the last 6 or 7 months, I have not seen a change, so to speak, from what has been happening in the last 8 years. We will hope that the president now is not listening to some ill advice coming in from some elements or people who have sympathy with the last administration to him as to how to fight terrorism. We have an ample opportunity now to change the guard in how we fight terrorism. We should not. I appeal to my colleagues in the military. I understand very much what the rules of international law of war says concerning PWs and so on. I must tell you, gentlemen, if we've got to fight this war and come out of it unscathed and make sure that we don't eventually leave this war for our grandchildren to fight continually because of our attitude, then we've got to face this war and face it with all the brute it calls for. Face it with all the seriousness it calls for.
Absolutely.
And not to start heaping PWs here and there. The more PWs we gather, the more we are heaping up a reserve force for belligerents who tomorrow will face our children. The situation is now, we have to start taking some very drastic actions. We have to start taking some very drastic actions. Serious nations all over the world are taking drastic actions in resolving their problems and their issues, especially when it borders on security. See what Israel is doing. Even when the whole world is condemning them, they don't give it down because their national interest comes first. Here, I don't even know whether we have a national interest because the way we just play with ourselves is unfortunate. We must sit down, do a serious rejig again. Do a serious review of the entire architecture, decentralize our entire defense arrangement in such a way that states will have some level of authority. Not a situation where I learned the 8 governors are about coming together to see what they can do about. There is nothing they can do if eventually the commissioners in those states, commissioners of police in those states, will still have to turn to their IG, who will still have to turn to Mr. President. So you lack the independence, the latitude of action. You lack it. You to just boil down to rhetoric, and at the end of the day, our usual style, it ends there. And the whole talk will bring some money, which will end up in people's pockets. And that's all. That's Nigeria for you. We are never serious in addressing our problems. I just hope this time around, with the high casualty of death we are seeing in Plateau, as